Good morning and welcome to training with the DJI RC Pro controller for the Mavic 3 Enterprise. Today we are going to be discussing creating missions in the DJI Pilot 2 program. So first, we're going to talk about the controller itself. You have your main home screen here, which shows your DJI Pilot 2 app, your gallery, files, Firefox, which is their default internet browser, your settings, and then tips, which is going to show you additional information on how to use your controller. We have our standard joysticks. We have our power button, which is the typical DJI power button, which is a push and then push to hold on and off settings. You have our home button, which is used in flight to return the drone to home. We have our pause, we have our flight settings, and then we have our joystick, which goes through additional options within the DJI Pilot 2 system. So the first thing we're going to look at is also within the home screen. We're going to pull down the top menu, and from the top menu we are going to get a whole new set of settings. And what we want to check is that we are going to hook this controller up to an internet service. This can be done using a MiFi or the hotspot on your phone. We are going to want to do this because the internet is where we are going to draw all of our maps from. And it's also going to be used to generate our RTK connection. Also within here, we have Bluetooth settings if we're going to Bluetooth into a system. Do not disturb, record screen. We have screenshots, our mobile data if we had a SIM card within this, and put it in airplane mode. We also have our brightness settings, where we can adjust our brightness settings right here, and as well as our volume. So once we're done with that and we're ensured that we are connected to an internet setting, we're going to go through and open up our DJI Pilot 2 application. We can do that by simply just touching it. When we open up the program, we are going to get our brand new home screen. This is a new program, so those of you who are not accustomed to using DJI systems, this is very, very new. Within our home screen, we have a few areas that we're going to highlight right away. Of the screen, we're going to show our max altitude. Our max altitude is the information that it is going to be receiving from the positional location of our DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise. The next button over is our cloud services. Cloud services is your typical cloud service where you would be able to upload your information to a cloud for storage or to be able to instantaneously grab it from another location. I currently do not have this system set up as it is not necessary for me right now on this specific instrument. Continuing moving to the right, you will see that we are connected to a DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise. It is going to show information about that. And what we're concerned of right now over the instrument itself is right up here where I have a caution. We are going to click on the caution button, which is going to bring up a brand new set of information about our drone. It is going to show all of the information that is vital to this drone being able to appropriately fly. So we're going to look at the first one, which is propulsion. Our propulsion is normal. Our avionics are normal. Our vision positioning is normal, which is our sensors. Our battery is in a good battery. Our controller is connected and good. Our imaging transmission, meaning from the camera to the controller, is good. And if we scroll, our payload is good, meaning we are not overweight on this specific drone. But the one caution that I have, which is my RTK, does not have a fixed solution. And right now, I understand because I am indoors and I'm not going to get a fixed solution within my RTK indoors. So from my flights, I have made my check to understand what my cautions are and that all of my other flight operations are in a functional mode. So I am going to just go ahead and go back. And what we're going to talk about specifically here today is how to set up a mission for mapping. To set up a mission for mapping, we are going to go into the flight route menu. The flight route menu has your list of all of your projects that you have going on, and it's going to allow you to create projects or import routes that you have previously created in the office. Today, we are going to create a route. When we create a route, we end up with 4 options. Now, some of you who have used other systems may be wondering, why is there only 4 and not as many options as some of the other programs offer? Well, in all reality, these 4 main menus right here offer all of the same flight type missions. They're just held in different menus within. So the one that we are concerned about today is our mapping option. So we're just going to click our mapping option. When we click our mapping option, it is going to geolocate to where we are based on the rough GPS location of the drone itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to locate where we're going to do a mapping project by simply scrolling over in your typical format of zoom in, zoom out. And when we zoom out, you can see that this has our restricted airspaces within the mapping itself. So if we zoom in, we're going to do a mapping location, a mapping project of this park right here. Now, as you can see on the map, it says tap to create mapping area. So I'm going to tap my screen. When I tap my screen, as you can see, I now get a blue selection box to define the area of mapping, as well as on the side over here, I start getting settings about my project itself. So the first thing we are going to want to do is right up here in our mapping area, we are going to name this project, and we are going to name this as Park Mapping. And we're just going to hit OK. So now I have my project name, so I can always come back to this within that list that we saw just moments ago. So the next thing that I would recommend doing is we would zoom into our area, and within the blue box, we are going to grab our solid grips and we are going to pull them down so we are making a clear definition of the area that we are going to map. So that is the area I would like to map. If, for instance, I would like to add more legs to a polygon of my mapping area, I would simply click on the plus symbol and I would get a brand new grip, which I would be able to pull out in that direction or any direction that I felt necessary to define the area in which I need to obtain mapping information. So now that we have our area defined, we're going to go down the list of all of our mapping options. So the first one we're going to go through is we need to select our camera. So by simply hitting the arrow next to select camera, we get this additional menu, which gives us a list of different cameras that are available for use within this DJI RC Pro data collector and the DJI Pilot 2 system. So for today, we are connected to the DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise. So we're going to click on the DJI Mavic 3E, and it's going to give us an option for a camera. And we are going to utilize our wide camera for the purposes. As you see, once we have selected our camera, we start to get flight lines showed up in our flight area. Now, those are kind of large. We're going to get to that in a second. So as you continue down, we're going to skip Smart Oblique because we're going to do a single pass mapping where we're going to shoot in straight nadir. The next line is our GSD, which is our ground sampling distance. Our ground sampling distance, based on the information that is currently put into this mapping project, shows that we are going to get each pixel as being 2.69 centimeters wide. So that is our ground sampling distance. That will change based on the parameters that we put in, which I will show you momentarily. The next one is terrain follow. If we had a project that we were doing that had extreme elevations to where we might have greater than 400 feet differential between the top and the bottom of the project, we might want to use terrain follow mode to get a specific elevation difference between the ground and the drone, as opposed to staying at a consistent altitude. So the next option we have is our ASL or ATL, which is above sea level or our altitude above ground. Well, per FAA regulations, we are allowed to be 400 feet above ground from our takeoff point. So we normally want to keep this in relative to takeoff point altitude, which is our flight altitude right here. Currently, the default setting within this program is 328 feet above our takeoff point. Now, 328 feet is pretty high for a mapping project. So we are going to go ahead and change this. To do so, we just need to click on the blue numbers, which we get our cursor. We are going to delete that and enter in our defined altitude for this project. For this project, we are going to be flying at 150 feet above ground. So I'm going to type in 150 and then hit the blue check for enter. Now within this system, we have it set up that whatever elevation we are going to fly at, it is going to subtract a couple of feet for elevational variances based on weather interference. So this will allow us to constantly fly at that 150 or below marker. And once we have done that, you will see that we have now gotten additional flight lines because we are flying at a lower elevation, so therefore it needs to fly more paths to be able to capture our entire flight. The next section is our target surface to takeoff point. We are going to leave that at 0 feet because what that means is that we are taking off from the ground and our target surface is at ground. The next is a safe takeoff altitude. The safe takeoff altitude, currently right now it is set at 66 feet. What that means is your drone, once it takes off, will fly up to an altitude of 66 feet in a slow pattern, hover there, and then from that point forward, it will continue flying at a faster rate and then flying to our start point. The next option we have is our takeoff speed. We can take off speed from 2.3 miles an hour to 33.5 miles an hour. Currently the default is 22.4, and that, in my opinion, is a suitable rate of speed for takeoff. The next is the speed at which this drone will be flying the mission. We can go once again from 2.3 miles an hour to 30.5 miles an hour. To me, this is quite fast, and in my opinion, all mapping should be done at a slower rate to ensure additional capture and not add any interference. So to change our speed, we have an option of utilizing the slide bar, where we just grab the grip and slide, or we can go right into the box. Once again, select the blue numbers, delete those, and enter in the speed that we have determined. And once again, I believe that we should be doing a 20 mile an hour speed. So I'm going to type in the 20 and hit enter. Now, as you see, there's a variance built in for any interference that might come in to the drone to make it go faster or slower, and therefore it is going to try and maintain that 19.9 mile an hour average speed. The next is our course angle. Now our course angle, what that is going to do is, I'm going to zoom in right quick on our mapping area. The course angle, as you see, our flight lines are directly vertical. If I would like to change my flight lines, the direction that they are going across the site, this is where I would do that. And I can do that simply by moving the cursor. And as you see, we get a new kind of cursor on the flight area that shows how our flight lines will be. Now, if I want this at roughly a 45, I can let go right there, and now I have a 45-degree flight line path across my project. If I would, and as you see, I roughly picked 50. If I would like an even 45, type in 45, and now I have a 45-degree angle, or north 45-degree east, south 45-degree west angle across my project. For this project, I specifically am going to keep these at 0 because I would like them to go in a long direction across my project site. The next one is elevation optimization. Elevation optimization, if you turn that on, what that's going to do is, as you see, it adds one additional flight line where the drone, once it gets done, is going to fly to the middle of the project and take an additional elevational picture. We are not going to do that with this mission because that's not what we are trying to achieve. The next option we have is, upon completion of this mission, what would you like it to do? And we have 4 options. We have end task, return to home, land immediately, or return to start point and hover. Well, more often than not, we are only flying one mission at a time, so we're going to utilize the return to home option for our missions. Our next option is the advanced settings. When we go into advanced settings, now we start getting some of our additional camera. So we're going to have a side overlap. For side overlap, that is the amount of overlap that your cameras are going to have within each other, or your pictures are going to have within each other. Currently, right now, the default is 70% overlap. I have always been taught and believe that an 80% overlap side to side is beneficial, also mapping our frontal overlap of 80%. Because remember, when we're mapping, more pictures are better. Okay. The next option that we have is our margin. Our margin is a really cool feature that they have added to the DJI system. So as you see within our project area here, all of our flight lines are right within our project limits. Well, what this margins is I can now, with a slider bar or picking, determine a distance beyond my project to add additional flight lines. So as you see within this one, 124 feet beyond our project, I've now got additional flight lines. So what this does is this creates an imaginary box 124 feet outside my project site and adds additional flights. So if I wanted to do an additional 50 feet of mapping to ensure that I get all the information within inside my project, you know, most of us have in previous systems have had to do this on our own. This program allows us to do it right through some settings. I think that's wonderful. So for this project, we are going to add an additional 50 feet, giving us one more flight line outside of our project area. The next option we have is our photo modes. Our photo modes, we have timed interval or distance interval shot. We are going to stay at a timed interval, allowing the drone to maximize its positional information and take a shot within the ratio above. So once we have figured this out and we have got all of our settings to where we would like them to be, we can simply minimize this menu, see our area, visualize it, ensure that it meets what we are trying to achieve for the project. Within the bottom, we will see that the total distance of all of our flight will be 8,550 feet. Our estimated time for this mission will be 5 minutes and 28 seconds. It will have 26 waypoints along the way. It will capture 306 photos, and the total mapping area will be 7.4 acres. Now, once we are done and we are happy, right here, we are going to hit the save button, which is the button that looks like a little computer disk, and we are going to hit save. Now our flight mission is saved. If we are not ready to run this mission, we can go back, and now you see back in our home area, we have all of our missions right there. So that is creating a single flight line mission. If I would like to create a double flight line mission, we are going to go through a lot of the same steps. We are going to create a route. We are going to select mapping route, and we are going to select our area that we would like to fly. Once again, grabbing your grips, moving them to cover the area you would like mapped. We are going to name our project. Okay. We are going to select our camera, which is once again, the DJI Mavic 3E wide camera. We are going to set our altitude of our flight of 150 feet. Our takeoff point will stay the same. Our takeoff altitude will stay the same. Takeoff speed, the same. Once again, we are going to change our speed of flight to 20 miles an hour. Our course angle is good. We would like to return to home. Our advanced settings, we are going to change our overlap to 80%. But now we want to do a double grid mission. Well, where is that information? We didn't see it in our options of flight missions as we would have seen in previous or other versions of mapping programs. Well, in this one, they kind of have it slightly hidden. This smart oblique option that we passed by last time, the smart oblique option, as we know, oblique is moving the camera at an angle off of nadir, which is nadir pointing straight down. So we are going to select that on. And as you see, a couple of things popped up. One, we get our gimbal angle. We get our oblique ground sampling distance now, not just our single ground sampling distance. And we have this 1 and 2 in our screen now. And also you look that our flight lines are now extended, and we have this octagonal figure around our project site. So first and foremost, what we're going to do is we are going to change our camera angle to a 20 degree. And what that is that's 20 degrees off of nadir. Okay? Depending on what you're doing will be depending on how much angle you're going to need. For this specific project, I know that I only need to be having about a 20 degree angular differential from my nadir to capture all of the vertical bits of information that is within this site. So you can see also within the bottom that this one now has a greater distance of 9,212 feet, has an estimated time of 7 minutes and 54 seconds, has 80 waypoints, is going to take 540 pictures and cover 4.8 acres of ground. Now, if we hit this number 2, we get a whole additional flight line set that goes in a different direction across our project site, giving us our crossing pattern. If we leave all information the same, it is going to fly this pattern in with the exact same settings that we have set up previously. And this mission will have a distance of 10,646 total feet, estimated time of 6 minutes and 33 seconds, 84 waypoints, 367 photos taken, and cover an area of 4.8 acres. We can also go through here and change our course angle to cover different. And as you see, all of the information down below changes. We are going to leave this at 0, so that way we get exactly perpendicular to our previous flight lines. Okay, once we are satisfied with that bit of information, which, as we saw, the only thing that is doing is giving us the option for a secondary mission, which will fly automatically once mission 1 has completed. So what the drone is going to do is go from this start point, fly all the way through this entire mission. When completed, it will hover in the air, automatically switch the project over, or the flight over, to this flight line orientation, fly over to this start point, and then fly this mission. And once this mission is completed, your drone will return to home. So to save this mission, once again, we are going to hit the save button, the button that looks like a little computer disk, and save it. And that is how you set up a single flight path mission, as well as a cross, or how you set up a double or a crossing flight plan for your mapping area. I thank you, and I hope that you fly safely and have a wonderful day.